Hello everybody and welcome back to the Leeds Lens for your Leeds United news show. And we have got a new link that's been out in the last 2 hours, which is to a attacking midfielder that plays in the Bundesliga, plays for Werder Bremen, called Romano Schmidt. So we'll talk a bit about him, what he is to offer, where Leeds are at with the valuation. Do we think this is going to get done? And fundamentally, do Leeds United actually need this player? So we'll talk all about him, bit of a player profile, that sort of thing, what he can sort of bring. Then we're going to get into a bit of how the relegation rival and battle is sort of toying up at this moment in time. Obviously, West Ham managed to get a win in the 93rd minute yesterday, which I think for everybody slightly dampened the mood of Leeds United's 91st minute win of Nemecha, but it can't do and it shouldn't do, but it felt like it kind of did. Obviously, we'll talk about Nottingham Forest getting a draw against Arsenal as well and the sort of impact of that. And finally, we'll end on some injury news updates. Also, apologies before we get into the show. Apologies that I'm a few minutes late. I've actually been at ice hockey today. I've been watching Leeds Knights ice hockey, and I've literally just got back. I was literally writing notes on the car journey home to make this video, so I apologise, I just couldn't get it back any quicker. So we'll talk all about that as well. We won't talk about the ice hockey. What am I talking about? But we will, as I said, we'll talk about injury updates. Also, as well, I just want to talk a bit about yesterday's video, because I feel like yesterday, I don't usually say this, but I think and I haven't seen a lot of negative comments, so this might be just in my own head, but I feel like in the match reaction, I kind of got the tone wrong of sort of the reaction to the game, because I must admit, obviously, the way I was at was with yesterday was that we get that 91st minute winner. It's the most I've celebrated all season. I was absolutely over the moon with that win. And obviously knowing the West Ham result at that time was 1-1, I was just like, this is just brilliant. We're going to go on now and we're going to be 10 points clear. And I was actually ready to come on the show with you lot and say, that's it. Because I think if we can get to 10 points clear, that could be it. And I was ready to go, that's it now. They didn't win today, West Ham. We're 10 points clear. They haven't won in like 2 months, and it's all looking the right way, and I think we're going to stay up. And then they score, and it just completely threw me off. And I think sometimes, obviously, when you do live straight after the show, that can happen. But I sort of an apology, because I just felt like I got the tone wrong. Because fundamentally, on yesterday's result, to get into it quickly, when I look back at it now, it was actually more important than ever that we won the game yesterday. So I'm being sort of disappointed. I'm being a bit disappointed. I was disappointed, obviously, that sort of West Ham managed to get that late winner, but actually we couldn't do anything about that. And obviously it only made it more important that we got that Lucas Nemecha goal, because obviously for West Ham's point of view, they're like, blooming heck, we win a game, yet Leeds United have still won and still won late. And yes, it was a bit of a downer for us, but it was probably more of a downer for them. And I said, more important, we got the win than ever, because of course that West Ham won. So I just feel like, as I said, it wasn't full of negative comments or anything like that, but I just feel like I got the tone out of the tone slightly wrong, in terms of I was probably more negative than I should have been, because it was a good performance yesterday and we did deserve the win. So I just wanted to say that at the start of it. Also as well, if you could, I've just realised, but if you could help the channel by dropping a like, subscribe, all that good stuff, does massively help the channel. So if you could do that, that would be fantastic. As always, it does really help the channel. The support, as I always say, has been unbelievable recently. It really has been fantastic. So yeah, appreciate that. And as I said, apologies for being slightly late as well. Aaron says, why is Graham Smith saying we aren't getting him? I'm not sure, but I must admit with sort of Graham Smith, I know I know what you're referencing here. He always seems to be behind on the news. Obviously, he gets the news from the football club, and I don't think the football club like to give him anything. Back in the day when we had Phil Hay, who was obviously fantastic, I think he had much better and much credible sources from inside the club that would give him the information early. I feel like since the 49ers have come in, they've not quite, I think they used Graham to sort of help their PR more than actually sort of give him loads of really good exclusives. And I think since the 49ers have come in, they've just kind of, I don't know, they're just kind of using, like, I remember something a few years ago where they basically told Graham that Somerville didn't have a release clause in his contract, and he did, and stuff like that. I just think that they use him anymore. And actually, he's always late with stories. In fact, I think there was a story that came out earlier. I can't remember quite what it was, but literally a few days ago, and he said it wasn't true, and then he ended up saying, oh, well, now the club is saying it is true. So I actually would take it with a pinch of salt. We know Fabrizio Romano is a brilliant journalist in terms of football transfer news. He very rarely gets stuff wrong. So I would imagine if he's saying it, there's something in it. We'll obviously get onto that as well. Gipton White says, even Scott, even to you too, mate. Aaron says, can we please talk about the ice hockey? Lol. We can do, mate. They won 5-2, did the Leeds Knights today. Brilliant performance. They were 2-0 down. And then, who were they playing? Bristol bottled it and from a 2-0 up and lost the game. But apparently they're really good, the Leeds Knights. It's literally next to Ellen Road, though. It's like literally about 100 yards away. It's basically in the car park. Anyone that does know. Gipton White says, a doggy performance yesterday. The important thing was we won. And we were a handful for we're a handful for any team. Now I agree with that, and I think that the sort of results that we've had recently, beating Chelsea, drawing Liverpool twice, is testament to what you're saying there, Gipton. Well, I completely agree with you. I think the way since we've gone to this 5 back, I think we give anybody a game, and obviously even the game we lost, obviously at Newcastle, we definitely give them a game, didn't we? I mean, we were literally like 10 seconds off getting something out of that game. So I agree with you. Anyway, let's get on and talk a bit about this Romano Schmidt, or Schmid, however you want to say it. So for anyone that doesn't know, 25 years old, which we know is Leeds United's nice profile. Leeds United love a 25-year-old in that range between sort of 25 and 28 anyway. Attacking midfielder. This season, I believe he's got 2 goals, 5 assists, so pretty good. And actually, when I was going through his numbers sort of in the car journey home, he's actually a third for chances created as well with 47. And he's obviously playing for quite a poor sort of Werder Bremen team. He's said third for chances created, and he's also second in the whole division for big chances created as well, which is impressive, obviously, for a team playing so low down the league. He's 6th for the assist as well, and he's also 12th for winning possession in the final third. And we know when we look at sort of Leeds United sort of going for these attacking creators, they always have that element of the reverse side and the defensive side that's about them as well. So yeah, this is a player I think that's interesting. The only thing that sort of is a bit strange to me with this whole deal is I get the age profile. I get that he's probably playing for a club that's too small at this moment in time, and he's ready for that step up. And probably Leeds United would sort of be the step up for him. My only thing is that sort of we've just bought an attacking midfield player in obviously Buonanotte. We do know in the summer and sort of we know Daniel Farke in the summer was talking about we need 2 more creatives in the team. In the summer we didn't get any. People remember that press conference when he said that, and we didn't get any. So I wonder if we're sort of making up a bit for lost ground here, and what we didn't do in the summer we're now trying to do now. But it does seem slightly bizarre, considering like when I'm looking at now, since Buonanotte's comes to the football club, we know Aronson's playing well at this moment in time as well. We know we've got Dan James come back. We know Nonto's fit at this moment as well. I'm looking at going, yes, he's probably a good player, but if I had 15 million euros, would I be buying another number 10? Potentially not. However, as I said, he could be a difference maker and he could come in and be fantastic for us. And I think he's quite versatile in terms of he can sort of play in that number 10 role, can play on the left, can play on the right. But as I said, if I'm looking at a priorities list for what I'd be wanting in terms of a signing for Leeds at this moment, for me, it's got like Strand Larsen made tons of sense because he's the sort of a physical number 9 that we want. And also, so that made sense. And also, I think with all injury as well. And I think in general, like I had a mate message me yesterday talking about we need a centre-back. And I think there's something in that, especially when we're playing 3 at the back and we've only actually got sort of 4 centre-backs at the club. I'm sort of pleased, like you always are with the new signing, but I must admit, it probably wouldn't have been top of my priority list. But look, as I said, I think he can bring a lot. And if you look at his underlying numbers when we're talking about, as I said, he's clearly a chance creation machine. And actually, under the comment, there was a post that went out from a guy called Doug Critchley, which I think is a journalist for Sky Sports a few days ago, actually, talking about Schmidt and sort of saying that he's probably going to transition to the Premier League. And I actually saw even people like Villa fans in the comments saying, look, I'd love sort of Schmidt to come into the football club. So, you know, he's probably a really good level. As I said, I don't know loads about him. But if you look at his underlying numbers, you can't have them underlying numbers playing for a team that's so low in the league if you're not a bit of a creative monster. So yeah, I think he's probably got a lot to offer, and it'll be an interesting signing. But it also says obviously in it that we're going to be playing 15 euros plus add-ons, which again I didn't think we had that sort of money in the bank. So I think what's an interesting comment, which is what Aaron was saying, and it's something I'm going to talk about now. Does that mean that one of our creators is going to leave? And the obvious one, as you said, Aaron, is obviously Wilfred Nonto. He's been linked to all the sort of big Italian clubs, and he has been for a few years now. We know Everton back in the day were linked to him as well. And I did say on the channel sort of a few days ago that if Nonto has another sort of 6 months like he's had in the first half this season, I do think he will probably end up going in the summer, because I think a player of that quality, when he's not getting the team for such a long period of time, there's only one way it ends. And that's not because I want Nonto to leave the football club. I actually really like Nonto. I think he's got a lot to offer the team if he does when he does play. But for whatever reason, he's just not, obviously, he's not fully in sort of Farke's plans in a roundabout way. But I look at it even at the weekend with Nonto, and I sort of felt, and I said this, I don't know if I said this on my match reaction, but I probably should have done. When Nonto came on for Okafor this weekend, I was hoping that he had a really, really good performance, and he obviously wasn't on for very long, because I think he can take Okafor's place, if I'm being honest. I don't think Okafor's playing that well at this moment in time. I've sort of given him the benefit of the doubt for a number of weeks now, because with these creative players who sort of are risk takers on the ball, naturally can they go through dry spells when it's not quite working for them. But I think Okafor, when we're talking about a dry spell, we're talking about a couple of months now, where he hasn't really had a good game for a long time. And as I said, I think Nonto can sort of displace him in the team, especially with how we're setting up now, because we're not really, like everyone talks about this 3-5-2, etc., that the Leeds United playing. We're not really playing a 3-5-2 at this moment. We're sort of playing more like a 5-4-1 or a sort of 3-4-3, however you want to look at it. And that's something to sort of bear in mind with this. That we're sort of, since we transitioned to that formation, actually I do think there's an option that you could play Aronson on the right or Buonanotte, and then maybe a Nonto on the left. So as I said, that's sort of where I'm at with it with Nonto. But this would suggest that he could be leaving, wouldn't it? Because it don't kind of make a load of sense otherwise. Stephen says, and he's on the same tone as me actually, Schmidt is an odd one. An odd one. No number 10 bizarre. I want to keep Tanaka and Nonto. They are a great fit in Farke, I trust, but unusual signing, cracking player though, and good chat as usual. Thank you very much, Stephen. And I've sort of butchered your comment there, so I might read it out again. But yeah, you're basically saying that, look, you want to keep some of our top players in Tanaka and Nonto, and I agree with it, because there is something building with Nonto and sort of Tanaka at this moment. In that they're not getting the team. I'm not saying they're going to sell them, but I think they're two players that, if you're looking at the summer, they both obviously offer really good value in terms of PSR for Leeds United. Nonto's basically free on the books this moment because of how long he's been at the football club. And Tanaka, of course, we only bought for, what, £3 or £4 million. So again, it would be sold for a lot higher than that. So yeah, they're potential players that I think that could be moved on in the summer, which would be a shame, because Tanaka's probably my favourite player at the club, actually. The only thing I would say with this Nonto and Tanaka stuff is, and I've seen this a lot online, and I think some people forget that they are Leeds United fans. Like I see a lot online, I'm like, we don't want to become Player FC. Like, that's what all scum clubs do, like Man United and stuff, where they're like, I'm obsessed with Bruno, I'm obsessed with Cunha. I don't want a fan base, really. And people that can obviously support the club in their own way. But then they were all Leeds United fans here. We're not Tanaka fans. We're Leeds United fans. And I think sometimes we've got to sort of potentially remember that to some people. Not obviously, I don't think we get it in the chat actually at all, but I've just seen it a lot on Twitter. I don't know if it annoys you guys as well. But I look at it sometimes and they're just they seem more obsessed about Tanaka than they do anything else. And I'm like, yeah, he's my favourite player. So I get it. And I think he obviously can bring a lot to this team. But I understood why Gurev was playing yesterday, for example. I got it. We were playing with quite an attacking team anyway, with Aronson and sort of Okafor in the team and Calvert-Lewin. We needed that extra sort of support in there, probably for Gurev for the majority of the game. And then we switched it. But yeah, I don't know. Graham Smith also said we wouldn't be signing a goalkeeper anytime soon. Then we announced Perry the next day. Graham Smith doesn't know anything. Yeah, no, look, I don't want to throw shade on Graham Smith, because fundamentally everything he does say, it's been heavily sourced from the football club. He's not like he's lying to us. Like, there's some journalists, I won't mention names, but we all know who I'm talking about here, in the Leeds space, who just get stuff wrong all the time. And sort of, I don't know how sourced they are. Graham Smith's not one of them. Graham Smith is a very good journalist who will do his research. He's just not getting information, and that's not really his fault. That's just sort of how it is. Oh my God, I've got a super chat. Wow, I've never had one of these in my life before. Thank you very much. I think I've had one actually before, but I've never had one at this level. I don't know what to say. Thank you very much. I'll read it as well. I better just read it probably, shouldn't I? Hi, mate. Been watching your channel recently. Enjoyed it. Thanks from an Aussie in the US. Mate, thank you to you. I'm glad you're enjoying the show, but thank you to you. That is really, really kind, mate. I don't know what to say. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you, I guess. I asked this earlier, and I was away for a while. Don't know if you answered it already. But if we get Schmidt, do you see Strand Larsen anymore? It's interesting. Oh mate, I don't know if I can pronounce that. Veal Hundmenen. Mate, I'm so sorry, I butchered your name. But do I think that Schmidt stops the sort of Jorgen Strand Larsen deal? I don't think so, actually, because I think when you look at sort of how it would be placed, the Strand Larsen deal, obviously he's a striker, so he's a completely different profile and in a different position to sort of Schmidt. So, and also I think the way we would sort of finance a Jorgen Strand Larsen deal would be obviously an obligation to buy in the summer, because we know we probably won't have the capital to put £40 million in January. So it probably is on a different environment to Schmidt, if I'm being honest. So I don't think it puts us off him, to be honest, if I'm being honest. But maybe the money that we were going to spend on Jorgen Strand Larsen maybe a bit up front this year in January, we're not going to do, because we've got Schmidt. So maybe. But I don't think so, to be honest. Aaron says Florian Petterberg is saying we are after Schmidt and he was the one who broke the Rutter deal. Yeah, he was. Well, there you are then. If Florian Petterberg's saying that it's true, and Florian Petterberg is amazing around German sources. He has been. We talked about it the other day, actually. I can't remember who we were talking about the other day with. But I can't remember who we were talking about with it. It might have been that Dookie, but he's really, really good regarding sort of for deals as well. And as you said, he did break the Rutter story as well. So, yeah, if Florian Pettenberg's saying it, Fabrizio Romano's saying it, truthfully, as good as a journalist as Graham Smith is, I think he's probably just not heard it yet. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just what the club tell him. Claymore says Smith just publishes what the club contacts tell him. It's not just what the club wants out. It's just what the club wants out in public. Yeah, you're right. Unfortunately, you are right. It's kind of client journalism in a roundabout way. And like I said, it's not his fault, because he wants to produce stuff that the club have actually said. And I get that, because he wants to make sure it's come from a reliable outlet. And obviously just picking it from anyone and agents and all sorts is not as reliable. But the only problem with that is they only tell you when they want it out, as you said. And obviously that's the situation with Graham. So I would always take it with a pinch of salt. I think we learned that, was it, 2 years ago in the summer, when he tweeted out at the start of the year saying that the club had told him basically that there was no release clause in the Somerville contract, and then we found out there actually was. But obviously the club were trying to do that to basically cover the back and hope that no one found out about the release clause. But obviously West Ham ended up doing it. Only one Daniel Farkas singing a song, walking in the Fart Wonderland. Mate, he's doing wonderful at the moment, isn't he? Says Arthur. Years ago, Adam Pope knew stuff. What happened to him? Yeah, well, Adam Pope's actually got a bit of stuff recently, hasn't he? But we don't, to be honest, it's just a different of ownership now, and it's just a different way of doing it. Like, we know now the journalists that sort of the 49ers deal with, they've always been quite strong with Mike Keegan in the Mail. He went on the tour with him, I think, in the summer as well. So he's one you can always look out for. And the usuals, the Fabrizio Romanos, if you're in sort of Italy, Di Marzio as well. If you're in Germany, Florian Pettenberg as well. David Ornstein's obviously a fantastic source. These are probably the people you're going to get it first. Like so that's kind of where it is. And as I said, I do not want this to come across like I'm bashing Graham, because it's not his fault. And any one of us who would be in his position if we worked to YP would be in the same situation. It's just he works naturally. He's got a close relationship with the club, but they don't work in the same ways they did when Phil Hay was working there. And I think with the Phil Hay situation, when he obviously left, I think he left basically because he wasn't probably getting the information anymore. So I think that's something to bear in mind. Sebastian says, I don't understand Schmidt link after the Buonanotte loan. Focus should be elsewhere. On left-back coverage, centre-back, left-back coverage. Of course, if you get Strand Larsen, let's go for it. Yeah, I'm with you, Sebastian. Look, I'm always going to want a new sign to come. I love Leeds United buying new players. Of course I do. It's part of it. It's great fun, and that's what we want to talk about, and we want new signs coming in. But I'd be lying to myself look, I can't come on tonight and say this is the perfect signing for us. I'd definitely be going for number 10. When yesterday you saw me on stream saying that our priorities probably should be a striker, a centre back, and maybe left back cover. Like that's so I'd just be unauthentic and sort of not genuine, which I never want to be. So yeah, but look, I'm completely open to it, and let's go ahead and do it. And fine, hope he's really good. But do I think it's the number one priority in the team? Probably not. I'm all for cover, but I hope Fark isn't getting the Davy O'Leary disease and going forward mad. We need centre-back cover, says Gipton White. Yeah, I do agree. Who would you bring? Davies plays. Who would you bring in? Presumably you mean left-back. Who would I bring as a backup left-back? I'm not actually sure. I think you can probably get a loan deal for that. Maybe a young lad on loan from maybe one of the sort of Man City might have a loan player. I'm not fully sure, to be honest. I'd have to think about that. Davies back cover back left back. Presumably you mean Leif Davis. Oh, you mean Leif in terms of that? Would you bring Leif Davis back? No, probably not, because I think in terms of the capital that you probably need to put down for Leif Davis, Ipswich are probably going to get promoted again this season. They're not going to settle in January, unfortunately. If they are going to, you're probably talking something silly, a silly offer like 15 to 20 million. Like if we were in their position, we would be going mad if we sold Leif Davis. He was one of their most important players. So I doubt he'd come. And also as well, on a personal level for him, if Gunnarson's going to be our starting left back, why would he come to Leeds United for cover when he's probably going to be playing in the Premiership next year anyway and starting? Sebastian says, with the BL injury, let's go for Dookie in January. Yeah, I think the Dookie one, and we've heard it a lot from it, that it's sort of a summer deal. But when we talked about the Strand Larsen deal, we sort of said that was a summer deal, that maybe they've moved forward because of an opportunity in the market. I think we've maybe got to do the same with the Dookie deal and look at it and go, well, we were going to do that in the summer on a free, but actually we couldn't need him now, so let's just push the boat forward and maybe do it in January. That's probably what I'd do, but I'm not sure they will. Suman El Kurani as a left back coverage, mate. You have better knowledge than I do. I'm not fully sure who he is. Maybe I should know who he is, but I'm not fully sure. Anyway, let's move on and talk a bit about sort of West Ham and the Spurs situation. Sort of obviously the Forest game. I sort of thought that was going to happen yesterday. And I know a few other people in the Leeds space have said this as well. I just had a feeling Spurs are the sort of club, and you heard me say it on Friday, this is not sort of out of the blue and probably not expecting me to say this, but I just had a feeling that West Ham might go and win that. But I must admit, when Spurs equalised against West Ham yesterday, I did think they'd maybe go on and win or at least get a draw. I was actually quite surprised that then they went and lost again from that position. But that is Spurs fee, and I think Thomas Frank probably will be sacked tomorrow. Would be my guess. Maybe he'll sack this evening, but I think it's probably too late now. But I do think he'll be sacked tomorrow. But yeah, it's a bit disappointing, isn't it? Because I think obviously that would have been a great opportunity for us going forward now to go and sort of build on that. West Ham have got tricky fixtures coming up. They've got Sunderland at home next, which I do think is winnable. But then I believe they go to Chelsea. So there is opportunities, obviously, for Leeds United to sort of make that gap a bit further on. But of course, our fixtures the next two are not particularly favourable. We've got Everton next, who've just won away at sort of Aston Villa, and then we've obviously got Arsenal, which obviously you can get points against Arsenal, as Forest proved yesterday. But it's not going to be an easy game for Leeds United, of course. So that was a bit disappointing. And then when you add in the sort of Forest result as well, and you're like, oh. What I'm saying is yesterday it just could have been that sort of perfect day, couldn't it? And it sort of just ended up being a really important day for Leeds United in terms of we got the win over the line, but you'd expected maybe it could have gone a bit better, to be honest. Dyth says, we won't get Duke in the summer, though. I'm not sure why. Okay, maybe we won't, but I don't know why, maybe not. Are you saying that other clubs would be better suited for him? I'm not sure. Plattenberg is the Romano of football. Would definitely have legs in this one, mate. I think he's signing now as a number 10 for the future, as Buonanotte will go back to Brighton in the season. That's true, Stephen. And I agree with you in terms of maybe like, obviously Buonanotte will go back. I don't think we'll get Buonanotte in a permanent, so I think you're onto something there. The only thing to bear in mind with that, mate, is that sort of we could do that signing this summer. Do we need that signing now in January because we've just brought Buonanotte in? So I'm not sure. But again, this could be a situation where it's an opportunity in the market. And again, Leeds United, maybe we're going to look at a player like this in the summer, but like you said, but because he's available now and maybe at a discounted price, because Werder Bremen might think, well, they could end up getting relegated because they're down there. And then, of course, it'd be worth a lot less. So maybe they want to cash in on January. So, yeah, you might be something in that, mate. But as I said, sometimes when you've got a limited budget, which we know Leeds United have, maybe you need to prioritise more the positions that we maybe are absolutely screaming out for. And especially when you count in the fact that we bought Buonanotte in and the former Brendan Aronson. Another number 10 doesn't hit the piles at the top of the tree for me personally, but I get your logic for sure. 100% get your logic. And let's talk a bit about these injuries as well, because we obviously, I'm sure we all saw on the Waco sort of that came out just before the game that Stach and Bijol were injured. Naturally, I'm sure we're all hoping that wasn't going to be the case, and that wasn't true. And then you found out that Stach obviously didn't post his usual sort of meme before the game, and you were like, yeah, this is probably going to be right. And you saw the sources from Waco, and there's certain people that talk nonsense there, but there's certain names that we all know when they say stuff, it's probably quite genuine. And obviously that's ended up happening. Luckily, it looks like Stach's going to be available again for the Everton game, which is fantastic. He just had an abductor strain, which I think is quite a common injury when you play a lot of football, which we know Stach had played a lot of football over the last sort of Christmas period for sure, especially with sort of like Ampadu being out and stuff as well. I think that's obviously what's caused that. Bijol in the same breath, obviously got a hamstring strain. Now, you've got to be really careful with hamstring strains because you can quite easily turn it into a tear. and I think that's something the club will be conscious with. So I think with Stach, with Bijol, we're just going to have to be a bit sort of careful with him, and if he can't feature in the next two, make sure he's back for that Forest game, because fundamentally that's going to be the big game that we've got coming up. That Forest home game, a really, really good opportunity for points for us. Probably going to need to win that one potentially, depending on obviously how West Ham get on. But if we can get him back for that game, I think that's a huge positive. And from what we're hearing, that's probably when he's going to be back. So not the end of the world. And as I said, we did well to get through January without loads of huge injuries anyway. But it would have been nice if we could have not had them two out yesterday. Because I did think, I know we won the game yesterday, but I think Stach's presence especially was a huge miss in the middle of the park. A huge miss. And I actually think, but as good as Justin was yesterday, I think Rodon's presence at that right centre-back role was probably missed. And then obviously Bijol's, I think, was missed in terms of an aerial threat as well. They are important players for us, Stach and Bijol, which is why we obviously paid the money we did. They were almost arguably our two sort of statement signings in terms of price tag in the summer. So obviously that's something sort of that I think obviously we need to not go without for a long period of time. But yeah, hopefully they're back quickly, and obviously if we can get both of them back, especially for that Forest game, and obviously Stach back for the Everton game, not the end of the world, because actually we've managed to win the game when they're both missing. Gipton White says both big losses to the team, but we can cope at this moment. Yeah, we can, and that's the positive of the squad. Can we change this guy against Werder and Schmidt? Can we exchange him? I'd probably not, mate, because I don't think they're going to be worth too much, unfortunately. I think Schmidt's got a buyout clause in his contract of something like £4 million. The Schmidt signing, to be honest, the 49ers have got a lot of hits, haven't they, at the football club? They've made a load of good signings, Tanaka's, Bogle's, to name a few. Rodon's as well, but the Schmidt one, that was probably a bad call, wasn't it? And I've never thought that Falk wanted him at any point. So yeah, I think we'll have to see on that one. But I don't think they'll hold the value of, even them two combined, and hold the value of a Schmidt, to be honest. I think Leeds just want to make sure they get this transfer line since other clubs were interested too. Is that right? Well, that might make sense, yeah. Because potentially this is someone they want in the summer, but obviously they think they're going to lose him, so maybe. Ollie says, evening. Nice to see you, Ollie, by the way. I haven't seen you for a few days. Evening. Good win yesterday. I'm worried we're signing Schmidt because of selling Ao or Willie, so I'm concerned. I have no idea how Okafor is above Nonto in the pecking order because he's garbage. Yeah, we talked a bit early in the show, Ollie, about sort of Okafor and his problems at this moment in time, and he's not really playing that well. And I was sort of hoping, obviously, when Nonto came on, that he was going to show an impact. That he didn't when he came on, but he didn't make a huge impact. He was obviously on for a very limited time anyway. But yeah, and with the Tanaka and Nonto one, as we sort of mentioned as well, I don't think they'll sell either of them in January. Maybe they'll sell a Nonto because obviously of. Maybe they think we could sell Nonto and that could allow us, we could use Schmidt as a replacement, and it might give us the funds to get a Strand Larsen deal over the line. And probably in terms of, would you take that in January? Would you take selling Nonto to get Schmidt in and Strand Larsen in terms of how you could fiddle the books? Maybe. So you've got to bear that in mind, I guess. It's Ollie on Tour, by the way. I changed my name if you got confused. Yeah, I just called you Ollie on Tour, I think. But yeah, it's nice to see you in the chat again, lad. It is nice to see you. I remember you joining once I think we did a stream once and you were in class when you joined. RM says, I like this activity. Why no centre-back, left-back or striker? Says that, yeah. No, I know what you mean, mate. Because that was, must admit, that's the first. When I saw it, I actually didn't know who he was, in truth. But I'd never even heard of him before, if I'm being honest. I don't have a huge knowledge of the Bundesliga, as you probably all know. But yeah, when I saw he was a midfielder, I was thinking, all right, well, fine, but is that what we need fully? We should bring back Werder if Bijol injury's bad. You never know, he could be the saviour. Do you know what it is? People are not going to like this as a take, and this is probably my worst. People are going to say it's my worst take on the channel, maybe. But actually, Werder as a left-sided centre-back, if Strout was to go down injured, might not be the worst idea in the world, if I'm being honest. You might go mad, and I know people don't like him as a footballer, and sort of how he's treated the club at times as well, leaving in that first year, etc. But in terms of a profile switch, if Strout did go down injured, which we know Strout is accustomed to an injury, I'm not quite sure who would play in that left centre-back role. I wouldn't want Bornau playing there because he's right-footed and quite stiff in the way he is. Rodon, again, he's right-footed and wouldn't really suit the left-side centre-back role. Whereas Werder actually is left-footed and kind of would make a bit of sense. So yeah, if we're playing a 5 at the back, maybe it's not the worst idea to bring Werder back if we're being totally honest. And that people might not like that, but it's probably true, to be honest. First time commenting, love the channel, says Gregory. Thanks very much, mate. That's a really nice comment. Thank you. I appreciate that. Gibson White says, I think Okafor could come good. There is a player there. Yeah, I agree with you. And it's just with Okafor, he's just, when he's not doing anything and he's sort of like losing the ball, like you can almost put up with him losing the ball and giving it away and running into blind alleys and putting a crap ball in. If we end up sort of getting a bit, we get an actual output from him at times. Like if he's getting something every game and he's being involved in the game and sort of making stuff happen and getting the odd goal and assist here and there, then yeah, fair enough. But he promised with him he hadn't done it for a while, has he? And it's sort of like, would Nonto have done any worse in that period of time if he was playing? Probably not. And I think Nonto's much better at keeping the ball and keeping the ball sort of ticking over than Okafor was. I think Okafor's probably more direct than Nonto, but much more accustomed to losing the ball. I don't think Nonto loses the ball very often. Schmidt is a similar profile to James Madison or Szoboszlai. Well, they're both good players, mate. So let's hope he's like one of them. Wilbury's also injured. Is he? Well, typical, isn't it? I don't think he was even terrible last season. In the 2022-23 season, he was probably the best centre-back of a bad bunch. Scored some important goals last year as well. Yeah, he did. I remember scoring last year against Derby in a 2-0 win. And he was obviously playing left-back a bit at the time. But actually, probably when you look at Vober as a footballer, he can play left-back and he obviously can play centre-back. And usually players that can play that, the actual role that suits him best is sort of the left centre-back role. So actually in that particular left centre-back role, he's probably not a bad profile to have, actually. It's not something I've considered. But obviously if he's injured, then that's no good. Do we know how long Vober's out injured for? Because obviously that could bear in mind with that. There are two players to fill right now without even taking Meslier into account. Buonanotte is an under 21 player, correct, mate? Yeah, he don't count. So getting Schmidt in now makes sense to move to a 3-4-2-1. We had 24 to 25 players. Yeah, we do have room for Schmidt to come in because of because obviously Buonanotte does count as a sort of youth player and don't count towards the 25-man squad, which I think is why they probably wouldn't take it up regardless of whoever they were going for. But I get you, yeah. But so maybe that's why they're doing it. But again, if we've brought Buonanotte in, do we need to go get another one? I don't know. I feel like we're going around in circles a bit here, but I think I think a lot of you guys sort of seem to agree with me in terms of, yes, we're all for bringing new players, but maybe let's prioritise positions we maybe need a bit more. I don't know. I think that was kind of sensible. Anyway, thanks all for watching. As always, I've really enjoyed the stream tonight, and a massive thank you to Mick for the donation. Unbelievable, mate. Thank you very much. And it wasn't like a £2 as well. It was like a 20 quid job, which is crazy. Yeah, I mean, I never expect anything like that. You guys viewing is absolutely viewing, liking, and subscribing. You can do that. That's the hat trick, and I'm more than happy if you can do that. That'll be really. I'm thankful for that. So yeah, for the donation, mate. Thank you very much. What a legend. Is there rumours of a goalkeeper as well? Is there rumours of a goalkeeper as well, as it's well needed? No, there isn't, mate. I don't think they'll do a goalkeeper. I'd be actually quite stunned if they do a goalkeeper. I said on the stream the other day, and people again probably disagree with this, and this is not my opinion about Leeds United. It's just what I think they'll do. I think one of the least positions that the least likely to are probably on the whole pitch is goalkeeper. I'm convinced they will do a goal in January, if I'm being honest. And that's obviously because of the price of Perry. And it's also because we've got quite a decent backup there in Kyle Darlow, who showed earlier in the season at this level that he's decent. I didn't actually think he played that well yesterday, but of course he did keep a clean sheet. And that's the fundamental for the goalkeeper, keeping the clean sheet. So yeah, I don't think they'll do a goalkeeper at all, mate, if I'm being honest. We did bid 34 million for Muniz, 40 for Bijol, so I guess there's some money allocated. PSR pressure was used to the trade so that they don't get fleeced. Yeah, to an extent, mate. The thing with the Bijol and Muniz thing, because I've seen this a lot online, I think it's an interesting point to bring up, because obviously everyone went, well, we've bidded for these players, where's the money going from? But actually, Robbie Evans explained a lot of that in his sort of post press conference after the transfer window, where he basically said, well, if we were going to buy Bijol or sort of Muniz for the price points that we were looking at spending, it would have meant that outgoings had to happen. But because we didn't get them sort of marquee targets and them sort of big sort of money signings, it meant that we didn't need to sell players. So we're still in a similar position PSR wise. It's just if we had that money based on the fact that we were going to sell players, which obviously we ended up not doing. So that's kind of where it was with that, which does actually make sense to me, to be fair. No chance we go for a goalkeeper, says Gibson White. Yeah, that's my opinion. That's not. I don't think that we will. Like if I was looking at the team now and thinking where's one of our worst positions, it probably is goalkeeper, if I'm being honest. But I just don't think the club will do it, just based on the fact we brought one in the summer and we've got Darlow there as well. So yeah. Anyway, Thanks for watching, as always, everyone. If you want to, as I said, support the channel by just like, subscribe, all that good stuff. As I said, because I'm a small channel, it really helps me. So if you could do that, that would be brilliant. And also, as well, if you've just joined, there's like 30 odd minutes of sort of conversation all about Leeds United. So you're more than welcome to skip back, like sort of skip it back to the start and listen to all the waffle that we've done throughout the rest of the show. If you'd like to do that as well, if you've just joined. Other than that, though, I shall see you everybody later. Tomorrow, there's a game at 8 p.m, so I can't decide if we should go 8 p.m. again or 7 p.m. So I don't know. I'll probably have to decide that at the time. What will you guys prefer? Like, if you do listen, obviously, which I know, obviously, a lot of you guys are in the chat every single night. Would you prefer me to go at 8 p.m. as normal or back to 7? Because I've tried both, and I think people sort of like different ways. RM says need to get rid of pro midfielder and need to get rid of pro and then get a midfielder and a winger. Yeah. Yeah, well, maybe Perot's going, mate. Maybe that's why we can afford Schmidt, because that won't be a bad trade-off, would it? Again, getting rid of Perot and bringing in Schmidt, and they're probably similar price points in terms of it. Anyway, we're waffling on here. So I shall see you later, everybody. Bye for now, and as I said, thanks for listening. Bye for now.